Lindenwood head coach Jed Stugart, the team coming off a loss against Missouri State this past week. They're going back at home. St. Thomas is the opponent this week. So, Coach, just some general thoughts on your team, and then we'll go to some questions.
Well, it's been a tough stretch here these 3 weeks, and I think about our team is we're kind of I think they're in a frustrated place, but not in a derogatory way. I think they're just, they just want to get on the winning side, and I've mentioned a few times in other press conference or press interviews that we're seeing these flashes where we can compete, we can play with teams like that that we've played in the last 3 weeks, and the reality is we just gotta stay the course and learn our lessons and keep working on trying to put 4 quarters together. But I think the morale of the team is good. We're just frustrated, I think, and we got to get back to work. I knew coming into the season. I mean, you start off with the top 25 Kansas, and we Central Arkansas is 8th in the country, and Missouri State, who I think probably is a top 25 team. They just haven't. They started off 0-2, but they almost beat Ball State and almost beat Montana up there. So we knew how good they were. So this has been a tough grind, and I think you have to learn these lessons, and you have to start to learn from it and start putting stuff together. And so it doesn't get any easier this week. So we're excited to get back to practice. We've had a good meeting yesterday, put a lot of things out there. Kids are in a good place. They're ready to get back to practice, and we're hopefully going to have a great week.
Thanks, Coach. I know Corbu is a couple to start for us, so go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah, Coach, good to see you again. So all those years ago, what was it, 20 years ago, Northern Colorado is making the transition from D2 to D1. How has that time then helped you in this transition with Lindenwood?
Well, I think early on when the decision was made, I think it helped a lot for me to, be able to kind of share my experience with our administration. I needed to really find out, sometimes administrations want to move up, but then, are they willing to make the commitment to do those types of things? I felt right away being able to share my experience. I really appreciate our president, Dr. Porter, having to be able to have a sit-down meeting, and really he wanted to hear about our experience, hear about the mistakes that I feel like were made that, probably have lingering effects. And he took that to heart, I think, when it comes to, scholarship support, getting to fully funded, doing, funding the budget, doing these things. And of course, we're not at the level probably where your top 5 FCS programs are as far as budget and all those things. I think a lot of people aren't. I don't think that can be an excuse, but I think the most important thing is them understanding the importance of being fully funded scholarship wise, being able to be put at an even playing field. Because there's a lot of challenges, as we know. I think probably the hardest challenge that you can't control is early on the playoff situation. I think your first couple recruiting classes, that's always a tough hurdle to get over. Because kids say, well, if I go there, I'm never going to have a chance for the playoffs. It gets easier after year 3 and 4, obviously, recruiting, because that doesn't affect as much, and people use that to their advantage in recruiting. I mean, I don't call it negative recruiting. They're just reminding kids all the time. So it's a tough journey to get it started. But it's not an excuse. You got to figure out a way to do it. And so I've learned a lot of those things from our time at Northern Colorado, because, honestly, it doesn't work if you don't have that support. It's already going to be tough enough, but I think our school, and I think the other thing too, and this isn't a shot at Northern Colorado, I think we were infrastructure wise, facilities, all those things, we started with a higher bar here. I mean, we didn't have to put a lot of money in infrastructure to we already kind of looked a little bit like an FCS program or a D1 program in a lot of areas. And I think that helps a lot too in that recruiting process. So
yeah, they weren't making up conferences for you guys to play football in,
right? And we weren't making up conferences like that. Yeah, I think we're all having PTSD right now talking about it, probably a little bit. So, yeah.
Tell me your thoughts on St. Thomas. Obviously, a program also making the jump from D3 to D1, and your thoughts on what you kind of expect from the Tommies this weekend.
Well, Glenn, known him long time, highly respect what he's done with that. That kind of, we go back to the NCC days too, Coach Crusoe. I mean,
Yeah.
high respect for this guy. And I think number one, what we've explained to our team is that anytime you play a team that has the history, historically has a culture of winning, you can't take anything lightly. It's like you have the first 3 games, we're playing all these top ranked opponents, and you can't just say, okay, we're not playing a top ranked opponent. That's very dangerous to get into, because at the end of the day, they've been going through the same transition, and you have to immediately look at the culture of a program. And when you look at historically what they've done, how much winning, I mean, I told our team the other day, they won so much they got kicked out of a conference. Like, nobody wanted to play them. Like, you have to, that respect has to be there. And I think our team understands that. We are in no position to overlook anybody. I mean, so I don't think that's even in the equation. Our guys had a great focus in meetings. Highly respect Glenn. Really think a lot of him, and it'll be good to see him again. We caught up at the convention, I think, a year ago, and sat and talked for an hour and a half or so, and had a great. I'm looking forward to this week and having them come down here to St. Charles. It's going to be fun to be back home again.
Yeah. Coach, thanks a lot. Great to see you again. Best of luck.
Thanks, Corby. Good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, you too.
Before we started recording, we talked about defensive and Vincent King. He had 17 tackles, seemed to do a little of everything. Brag on him a little bit and talk about his performance last week.
Well, he's been a blessing to our team. Just number one as a person, man. I love Vinny. Comes to work every day. He's like, a lot of times a guy comes in, you think just for 1 year, are they just going to kind of, do they consider themselves leaders, or how long is it going to take them to fit in? He got so much respect by our team so quickly, just by how he showed up and his love for the game, but his love for, I'm talking more as a person, like his personality, just how he cares for people, and then his work ethic, man, is, he wants to be good. He wants to work hard all the time, and it's so great to see. He was all over the field the other night against a really good offense. We've had some little nicked up injuries and some linebackers sitting out, and even some linebackers playing a little bit dinged up that are healthy again, and they're going to be back. And he picked up a little bit of that slack a little bit, by stepping up when others aren't out there right now. So it's going to be good to kind of get a little bit, some of our pieces back, and Vinny being a part of that. But yeah, he just checks every box of the type of kid that you want on your football team, as a leader on and off the field, and just as a high quality person, and has probably some of the nicest hair on our campus. Men, women, it don't matter. He's got a nice head of hair. There's no doubt.
I saw his photo. I'm jealous. Well, one more question. We'll let you go. Steve Hall was our co-freshman of the week. He had 100 yards on 13 carries. So what did he bring to your rushing game this week?
He's just a consistent back. When I say consistent, like, we tell our kids all the time, you play like you practice. And we try to get our guys to understand that you got to have a great week of practice. That's the one dude you just don't worry about. Every run, every drill, it transfers over to the game. Last year, probably because he was a true freshman and we had a little depth, he had a little, needed a minor surgery just to clean up something. And we decided to go ahead and have him get that done so he could be back for spring. And then when we started having all of our injuries last year and we were down to no running backs, I was like, shoot, we could use Steve right now, but I'm so glad we did, because he's healthy, because we saw that last year in him. He would have played a lot last year. He just he is another incredible human being just as a person, but man, loves to run the ball. He's shifty. It's a great compliment, because with Giamo the last few years and Tez, we've got a very consistent, solid backfield, and a little bit more depth than we've ever had as far as health goes. And that's, I'm not superstitious, but I'll knock on wood anyway. But after last year, I knock on anything. So it's man, he's a great kid, local kid, MICDS, just down the street, and couldn't be more proud to have him on our side.
Well, Coach, thanks for your time this morning. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you, Kyle.